You know those moments you just feel a jolt? Like a reaction just pops out, something you didn't plan.
Mm.
Or maybe a habit takes over, even though you really wish it wouldn't.
Yeah, or you look around and see things that just don't seem to add up. Like,
Mm.
why do some people who seem to operate from a difficult place still seem to prosper?
Exactly. It touches on that feeling of maybe not always being fully in the driver's seat.
Or just seeing patterns in our own lives or others that don't quite fit the simple cause and effect we expect.
Absolutely. And this deep dive, we're going right into the heart of that. We're digging into chapter 7 of the book, The Buddha's Lost Art of Gamnod Ryu and the Three Natures.
Ah, yes, chapter 7. This chapter introduces a really potent idea the author calls blueprints.
Blueprints. Okay.
Yeah, it explores what's really going on when those hidden forces inside us kind of take the wheel. How the actions that come from those forces don't just vanish.
Right.
They are, according to the book, literally drawing the map for our future experiences, for better or for worse.
Okay, so we're going to explore this core concept from the book, this idea that we're carrying, what, different portable chargers inside us.
That's the metaphor, yeah. 3 of them.
And we'll look at that crucial moment when one of those energies hits full power, why it feels like the past keeps showing up,
The echo effect.
why that tricky observation about seemingly difficult people succeeding keeps nagging at us.
Always a big question.
And most importantly, what you can understand about this and maybe what you can do about it starting, like, right now.
So our mission here is really to unpack what Chapter 7 is showing us, to get a real handle on how our moment-by-moment actions are writing these invisible blueprints
Onto our lives, essentially.
onto the timeline of our lives, exactly. And the, frankly, incredible power that comes with just recognizing this process, the power to consciously shift where your story is heading.
Okay, let's open it up then. Chapter 7. The book kicks off with this pretty striking image. You're constantly carrying 3 portable chargers inside.
Right. Representing what the text labels the good nature, the bad nature, and the stagnant nature.
Okay, 3 distinct energies.
And here's a really central point the book emphasizes. You're only ever truly plugged into one of them at any given moment.
Only one.
Only one. And while you're actively, charging one nature with your attention and energy, the other 2 are actually doing the opposite.
They're draining.
They're slowly draining their power. And this is vital to grasp. It's why I feel that they're constantly vying for your attention.
Ah, like they need fuel.
They need that connection, that fuel, just to survive, to exert any influence at all.
So they're not just passive states waiting around. Each nature actually needs energy to power up its ability to shape your thoughts, your words.
And your eventual actions. Absolutely. Think of it as the juice that drives their specific agenda within you.
Got it.
And the book then describes this pivotal moment when one of these nature's batteries hits full charge.
Yeah, and it sounds like it gets incredibly powerful then.
Overwhelmingly so sometimes. When that energy lever peaks, its pull becomes so strong, it can feel like it just overrides any conscious intention or control you thought you had.
Like the momentum is just too much.
Precisely. And in that instant, an action is triggered. Maybe your word erupts, critical or kind, or a deed is done, something generous, or perhaps something that causes difficulty.
Uh-huh.
And this action, the book makes very clear, is profoundly significant because it doesn't just happen and then poof, it's gone.
No.
No, it creates something the book calls a blueprint.
Okay, the blueprint. So what is that exactly?
Well, it's described as invisible, sealed, and final once it's created. Like an energetic thread that gets woven directly into the fabric of your future timeline.
Wow. Sealed and final.
That's the description. And this is where the concept ties directly into the idea of karma, as the book points out. It's the energetic consequence made manifest.
So it's the result of the action, but stored somehow.
Stored and waiting. Critically, once that blueprint is written, it doesn't just fade away. It waits for the right conditions to ripen.
Ripen.
Yeah, like a seed. And then it unfolds in your life. Sometimes surprisingly quickly, sometimes much, much later.
Okay.
And a key insight from the book is that it doesn't necessarily just play out once. The energy behind it can cause it to return, maybe in different forms, until that charge is fully expressed and finally fades.
So acting on an impulse from one of these natures,
Yeah.
it doesn't just create a future consequence, it actually changes something inside you too, makes it easier to do it again.
Exactly. The book explains it really well. Doing so is like starting with a pre-charged battery the next time that specific nature tries to influence you.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
Think about it. The very first time you do something, maybe an act of real kindness that feels awkward or something you know is unskillful, it can feel difficult, right?
Yeah.
There's resistance.
Yeah, definitely.
But the next time and the time after that, the book notes that even if the outward action still requires effort, that inner resistance tends to lessen.
Because you've already laid down that track, that blueprint.
You've laid down the blueprint, the energy is just more readily available for that pattern.
But hang on, this sounds a bit deterministic, like we're just puppets of past actions.
But that's where the book introduces a crucial distinction. The idea of draft blueprints.
Draft blueprints.
These are the impulses, the stirrings, the mental toxins, the malatin, as the book calls them, driven by the natures, but crucially, they haven't yet been turned into outward thought, word, or deed.
So they're like potential blueprints, not finalized.
Exactly. And the power lies right there, because these draft blueprints are not sealed. They're not final until you actually give them life through action.
Okay, so there's a window.
There's a window. And this is where the book brings in Gam Nod Ru, setting the condition to know as the absolute game changer, the vital tool.
Gam Nod Ru. Right, we've talked about that. How does it fit here?
This is where everything can shift. The book explains that even a brief moment of genuine awareness, that pure, simple knowing that arises with Gam Nod Ru, it can effectively pull the plug.
Pull the plug on the charging.
Yeah, unplug the charging process for the negative or stagnant natures. It can actually dissolve the buildup of these draft blueprints before they become sealed actions.
Wow, dissolve them before they happen.
Before they manifest outwardly. And in that same moment of knowing, it can reconnect you instantly with a good nature.
So it's like an interruption and a redirection.
A powerful one.
Yeah.
And the author makes this profound point. Making this inner presence, this practice of Gam Nod Ru, a regular habit, it can actually start to reverse the very gravity of your existence.
Reverse the gravity. What does that mean?
Instead of being constantly pulled towards the consequences of old negative patterns, you start to attract different possibilities, different people, different situations, different experiences. The whole energetic landscape around you begins to shift.
Okay, that's big. So let's talk about what this actually looks like in day-to-day life. How do these blueprints manifest when they finally, ripen?
Okay. Right. The book goes into quite a bit of detail here, explaining how your external reality often starts to mirror the internal energy of the nature you fed when that blueprint was originally created.
Makes sense. Like attracts, sort of.
Something like that. So when a blueprint from the good nature unfolds, the book describes life flowing with more clarity, more strength. Obstacles seem to lessen or resolve more easily.
Things just work out better.
Yeah, daily life feels smoother, less effortful. Resources might appear when you need them, maybe in unexpected ways, like a kind of good fortune. Even old, heavy stuff, karmic burdens from the past, can feel lighter. The book talks about a growing sense of success, relationships strengthening, finding yourself in environments that just feel supportive, uplifting. People respond more positively. Your own generosity seems amplified.
And internally, what happens inside?
That reflects it too. The mind becomes clearer, calmer. Anxiety tends to fade. Confidence rises naturally. Deeper meditation might become more accessible. Finding stillness feels easier. Just this sense of effortless peace. It supports your inner world just as much.
Okay. And the flip side, when a blueprint from the bad nature comes due?
Well, as you'd expect, it's the opposite. Life becomes noticeably heavier, maybe more chaotic. Problems seem to multiply. Resources get lost or wasted. Misfortune can feel like a pattern. Health might suffer. Relationships get tense. Conflict flares easily. There's often a strong tendency to blame others or feel stuck in these really difficult, repeating cycles. Harmful actions or words can feel almost impossible to hold back.
And the inner state?
Equally challenging. The mind feels darker, restless, maybe filled with confusion. The book specifically notes that trying to meditate can feel almost impossible, like you're cut off from any deeper knowing or wisdom inside yourself.
Just stuck in the static.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the third one, the stagnant nature's blueprint.
Right, the stagnant nature. What does that look like?
When this ripens, the book describes a life that just feels dull, flat. Days kind of drift by in a sort of shallow comfort, maybe, or just numbness. There's no real engagement.
Not necessarily bad, but not good either.
Exactly. No major growth, but maybe no major crisis either. No real clarity emerges, but no deep healing happens. It's just stuck, neglected, coasting along. The book even suggests you can forget what it feels like to be fully, vibrantly alive.
Wow. That's quite a picture.
It is. So the book is really clear. If your life feels stuck or heavy or just numb, it's not random. It's not punishment from outside.
It's feedback.
It is, according to this view, direct feedback. It's the blueprints you've created playing out, showing you the energetic signature of the natures you've been feeding.
But seeing that isn't meant to be discouraging.
No, quite the opposite. It's meant to be empowering because it shows you exactly what energy needs shifting. It points the way to consciously turn your life towards a more wholesome, more alive path.
Okay, that leads perfectly into that question you raised earlier, the tricky one.
Ah, the toxic people prosper question.
Yeah. If this blueprint system is so precise, why do we often see people who seem, well, difficult or maybe even harmful appearing to succeed, getting ahead in the world?
It's a completely fair question, and it can really challenge this whole idea. The book tackles it directly.
What's the explanation?
It suggests they might be riding on the momentum of old merit.
Old merit, like good stuff they did before.
Exactly. Positive, energetic blueprints set in motion by their actions in the past, maybe the distant past, maybe even previous lives, according to this framework. That older positive energy is still carrying them forward for a time.
So it's like they have good karma credit.
You could think of it that way,
Nah.
but the book is very firm. This momentum isn't infinite. It will run out.
Okay.
And crucially, their current actions, the ones driven by selfishness or causing harm, are absolutely writing new negative blueprints right now.
They're creating new problems for themselves down the line.
Precisely. It's just that these new negative blueprints haven't unfolded yet. They're sitting there waiting for their conditions to ripen and manifest.
So the consequences, the karma, it takes time. It's not always instant.
Not always instant, no. But the book really underscores that the system is precise. It doesn't lose track. What goes around eventually comes around in this view.
Right.
And sometimes the book adds another layer. Sometimes the harm from their present actions touches your life.
Oh.
Because on some level, your own blueprint matches up with experiencing that kind of difficulty.
Oof. That's, yeah, hard to hear.
It can be painful to consider, but the book presents it as part of the intricate, precise way these energies interact and unfold. It's not personal punishment, it's energetic resonance.
So the point isn't to get caught up judging them.
Exactly. The author's point is that seeing this whole mechanism, understanding that everything unfolding is like an echo of energy once released, can be incredibly freeing.
How so?
Instead of getting tangled up in judgment or confusion about someone else's apparent success or difficulty, you can redirect that energy. Focus on the blueprints you're writing, right here, right now.
You take back your power.
You're given the power to change your story, not theirs.
Okay. That makes sense. Which brings up another really important question, I think. What if you feel like you've already messed up a lot? Like you've already done so many things you regret, created so many negative blueprints that your future just feels doomed to be difficult.
A very common feeling. And the chapter addresses this with a really powerful analogy.
Okay.
Imagine you're sailing a boat. You're on the sea, right? But beneath the surface, unseen, are jagged underwater rocks.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The book says these rocks aren't just symbolic. They are the actual blueprints created by your past unskillful or harmful actions. Every time you acted from fear or anger or greed or just carelessness, another rock, another sharp edge was added down there. And now you're sailing over them.
And sometimes you hit them.
Exactly. Those are the collisions, the moments of sudden heartbreak, unexpected loss, repeating the same painful mistakes, those challenges that seem to just leap out of nowhere.
Right.
And the book is clear. This isn't cosmic punishment. It's just the inevitable unfolding of those blueprints, those energetic structures you created, maybe long before you understood any of this.
Okay, but that still sounds pretty grim if the rocks are already there.
But here's the profound hope the book offers. You are absolutely not locked into constantly crashing against them.
Oh, the rocks are there.
Because the tide can rise.
The tide.
Yes. Every single time you consciously choose to act from the good nature. Every time you forgive when it's hard, offer help, speak gently, stay steady when you want to react, practice patience. You are generating new, fresh, positive energy. You're creating new merit. And the book says this new, clean energy acts like a rising tide around your boat.
It lifts the boat higher.
It lifts you higher. It creates clearance above those old jagged rocks from the past.
So you're not removing the old rocks.
No, the past actions are done. The rocks are part of the landscape beneath. But by raising the water level, the present energy level around you, you lift your boat. You can pass over them more easily, maybe without even touching them eventually.
Wow. Okay.
And just as crucial, by choosing not to act from the bad or stagnant nature now, you stop adding new sharp rocks to the seabed below.
You stop making the problem worse while actively raising the solution.
Beautifully put. And the book acknowledges, look, even with a rising tide, you might still scrape against those old rocks sometimes. Your boat might shudder.
Yeah.
Those past blueprints are still there, still unfolding according to their own timing. But crucially, that doesn't mean the good you're doing now isn't working.
Right. It doesn't mean the tide isn't rising.
Exactly. It just means you're actively navigating waters shaped by the past while simultaneously creating a higher, safer tide for your future journey.
That's incredibly empowering, actually.
Isn't it? That's the power this chapter really highlights. Every single honest act, every patient moment, every generous impulse acted upon, every moment of true knowing through Gamno. It's pure, clean energy.
It's actively lifting the tide.
It is actively lifting the tide around you. It's building something new, raising you up in ways you might not even perceive right away. But the book assures us it is working. You are not just passively waiting for your future.
You're transforming the waters you sail on.
You are transforming the very waters you sail on. Dynamically.
So, wrapping up chapter 7 then, the core message is our actions driven by these three natures, they aren't just fleeting things, they're building these invisible blueprints.
Right. And these blueprints are literally shaping the reality of our future experiences. Precisely.
But far from being like a heavy burden, just recognizing this mechanism gives you immense power.
The power to intercept those negative impulses, maybe using Gamno,
Yeah.
to dissolve those draft blueprints before they solidify.
And the power to consciously connect with the good nature, to create the positive blueprints that act like that rising tide.
Lifting and transforming your life, yeah.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought, doesn't it?
It does. If every single action is writing a blueprint for your future.
What blueprint are you writing right now, in this moment, with the very next thing you think or say or do?
That's the question that really sits with you after this chapter.
Definitely. And as we continue our deep dive into this fascinating book, the next chapter, chapter 8, builds right on this foundation.
Yeah, it looks at the person I want to become. It explores why we can feel so stuck in old patterns, even when we know better.
And how the good nature specifically helps illuminate the path out.
Exactly. And how we can use this whole understanding of blueprints to actively, consciously shape the future selves we genuinely aspire to be.
Looking forward to diving into that one.